Hey everybody, good late afternoon. Made it to the end of another week, and we also got our first pass rush win rate chart of the year. And you guys know how much I like to discuss the pass rush on this channel. And tomorrow morning we will be throwing a little bit of a pass rush party, believe me. But let's take a look at the pass rush win rate chart that Seth Walder just put out on Twitter earlier today because there's some pretty interesting stuff here. And I like to look at all the different analytics behind pass rushing in the NFL. It's good to use one, it's good to use two, but I like to use as many as possible because you're probably going to have to do that in order to get to the actual truth. The truth is going to be buried in there somewhere, and not any one analytic or stat is going to tell you everything. You're going to have to look at all of them and kind of put it all together in a big mental chart of sorts. So, what we have here is ESPN's pass rush win rate chart. And I looked at data kind of like this previously already, but I want to go ahead and do it again now that it's in chart form and now that we actually have a decent amount of data. What we have here are players that play on the edge in an NFL defense that rush the passer. And this chart measures two things. The double team rate is the x-axis here. So the double team rate, basically the further you are to the right, the more often you are double teamed. And your pass rush win rate is the y-axis. That is how often you win the rep as a pass rusher. So right away, you're going to notice something pretty awesome. Boye Mafe is all the way up here in the top left, which basically means he is one of the best players in the league at winning his pass rush reps, and he's also one of the least double teamed edge rushers in the entire league. Byron Young is the only player that this chart has being double teamed less. It's something like 3 or 4% of the time, it looks like, based off the way the chart is positioned. But he is winning on his pass rush reps about 34% of the time, 35% of the time, approximately, based off this chart. The only player in the entire NFL that has a higher pass rush win rate than Mafe is Micah Parsons. Now, Parsons is more meaningful because Parsons is getting double teamed a lot, but it's still pretty dang nice for a young player on a rookie deal who, he's got a long way to go. If you take a look at the way he played last year, the fact that he's near the top of this chart in any context is impressive, is awesome, and deserves to be called out positively. Now, also, if you're looking for other Seahawks on this chart, Darrell Taylor is above average in his pass rush win rate. It's about 0.21, so 21%. And Uchenna Nwosu's just a little bit behind him at about 0.19, so 19%. And both those guys are getting double teamed more often than Mafe, but it's still somewhere around probably 13, 14% of the time. So they don't get double teamed that often either. Now, real quick, I do want to say this. Seth Walder does throw a little bit of cold water on the Boye Mafe thing with this tweet here. Went and watched his wins. One weakness of PRWR is a high and outside rush where a defender gets past the blocker vertically but is too high to affect the QB. You can get a cheap win that way. He had a couple cheap wins like that, but mostly I was impressed. So maybe it's not quite as good as it looks on this chart because this chart makes it look amazing, incredible, like he's headed for all pro status. Maybe not. But he does, even in this tweet, he points out he was mostly impressed. So this represents a big step in the right direction from where Mafe was last year. And we also have two other players that are pretty clearly above average. Like, look at all these guys who are down here in like the 15% win rate or even like the 10% win rate. A lot of guys, including some big names, guys like Danielle Hunter, Aiden Hutchinson, Quiddy Pay, George Karlaftis, former first round pick, Trevon Walker, former number one overall pick, Jermaine Johnson, Maybe we know why Randy Gregory was released just recently. Tyree Wilson, although he's making headlines in a negative way as is. So you can see that there are some very good, very well respected players in this league who have a much lower pass rush win rate than the three guys that the Seahawks have featured so far at Edge this year. So it means something. It definitely means something. And Corbin Smith, I think, does a really good job summing it all up. Currently, the Seahawks are the only team with three edge rushers in the top 20 in ESPN's pass rush win rate. So no other team is doing as good of a job as the Seahawks is getting multiple guys in on the action. Obviously, having just played the Panthers and Giants helps, but we are not the only team that the Panthers and Giants have played this year, and other teams are not going off the way that we did. So, any way you want to slice it, this is very impressive, this is awesome, and this bodes well. But the other thing that I think is interesting here is the double team rate. Obviously, the pass rush win rate data is awesome, but the double team rate, Mafe basically never gets double teamed. It happens a tiny percentage of the time. Daryl Taylor is getting double teamed a little more often, but still somewhere around 14, 13%. And Uchenna Nwosu slightly more, something like maybe 14 to 15%. So these three guys, the three most utilized edge rushers on this team, are facing a lot of single teams so far this year, which is really interesting given the fact that the Seahawks are not running three-man fronts. They're running two-man fronts almost exclusively, and it's basically, effectively, in effect, a four-man front because the edge rushers play as part of the front. They're just standing up, but they're pretty much always rushing the passer. So the two guys that we have manning the actual defensive line with their hand in the dirt, be it Jaron Reed, Draymond Jones, Mario Edwards, Miles Adams, Cam Young, for the first game Mike Morris, they must be doing an extraordinary job for those guys to just never have to worry about a double team. Because if you think about it, if there are five offensive linemen and there are two down linemen, that should leave three other offensive linemen to handle the two edge rushers if the guys in the middle are getting single teamed. So clearly, that's not happening almost ever. And watching the games, you see the double teams on the interior guys, but to see it in statistical form like this is, I think, an entirely different thing. And it really points out that those guys are playing awesome. And I know they're not necessarily always putting up the big numbers. Some people have gotten on Draymond a little bit for not putting up the big numbers. This tells me he's doing a really good job. If he's drawing attention like this and allowing our edge rushers to play against single coverage, then he is earning his money. He is earning his money all day long. So that's how I'm looking at this as well. This is very interesting. It tells me that our interior linebackers are probably doing a good job blitzing when they blitz because it means they're attracting the attention of blockers as well. And if we can keep this up throughout the season and teams are not able to double team our edge guys, I imagine things are going to continue to go very well. All right, so that's what I got. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Probably streaming tonight on Twitch. And yeah, this is a great sign. Obviously, we've feasted on some lackluster offensive lines, but really, this started in the Detroit game. And Detroit has one of the best offensive lines in the league. So it's not just the Panthers and Giants, guys. All right, shout out to these guys. Hope they keep it up. See you guys later. Go Hawks.